You are listening to the Mark Guzman Podcast Experience. Insurance is something you buy with the hope that you never have to use it. But insurance also acts as a gateway to peace of mind, knowing that if something does go wrong, you will have an answer for it. But insurance can be tricky, which is why it's important to have helpful agents, like our guest today, Jessie Banuelos, to help you find the coverage options available. At the same time, she educates clients on how to navigate the insurance market. With 28 years of experience, Jessie is well established in the insurance industry and has plenty of insight to offer. This is a great episode for anyone who has questions on how insurance works or anyone looking to start a career in insurance. Okay, Jessie, thank you for being on the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
So you do insurance.
I do insurance.
How long have you been doing insurance?
A long time. My very first job in insurance was when I was 18 years old. I was a student at UC Berkeley, took a part-time job for a farmer's agent in Orinda. Found quite the passion for insurance when I saw this young man who was beautifully dressed, drove a beautiful car, lived in a beautiful home. And I was quite intrigued by what he did, which at the time I just understood that he sold auto and home insurance. And what was interesting to me is how his clients really didn't fully understand what they were buying, what they were insured for. And I didn't really notice that there was a lot of opportunity that was taken to actually explain to the clients, how insurance works, how it functions, what are the coverage triggers. And so I took an interest in that. And here we are 30 years later, and now I own my own insurance agency in Orinda. So I've come full
congratulations.
circle. Thank you.
So how was that starting up your own insurance agency?
So I actually had quite the opportunity present itself. I've always supported an agent or a broker. I like to say I'm the woman behind the man because it really, for the most part, I've always seen it as a male-dominated industry. I had an unfortunate situation happen with one of my children. Kind of took me out of the game for a little bit. I took some time off. I was working from home and got a call about a year ago at this time from Farmers Insurance asking me to consider taking over an existing agency, a 50-year-old book of business. An amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
How do you say no to that? And so, kind of just restructured things at home to take care of my son and talk to my husband. We have a lot of support. And so here I am, trying to revive an agency that is pretty robust in the sense that there's a lot of clients. There's a large client base. But it really is an agency that has been in decline for quite some time. And so, it's kind of my job to get in there and reach out to the clients and breathe new life into the agency. And I have an amazing team. I brought my intern with me today. John is fairly new into insurance, trying to figure out if he actually wants to pursue it. And I'm hoping that he does because he is my son. And I would hope that he would want to carry on the legacy. But it has just been an amazing opportunity reaching out to clients and actually in a very short amount of time with my amazing team, we have turned the ship around and we are in growth mode.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
I'm very excited.
And so the agency that you bought was already located in Orinda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, how do insurance agents get paid? I mean, is it a commission or is it like a residual type, like every type of renewal you get a small commission? How does that work?
So it is a commission-based business, which makes it a really difficult business to actually get into. Scratch agents who start from zero really have to have substantial savings in order to live, and to be able to build a book of business. The upside of selling insurance is it's not a transactional business. So it's not like real estate where you sell the house, you get the commission, and you move on to the next deal. It's a relationships-based business, and we are paid commission on residual. So it's a lower commission, but the longer the clients stay on the books, the bigger your agency gets and hopefully the bigger your paycheck gets. But, the most important thing, I think, for insurance agents dealing with their clients is just to always nurture the relationship that you have with them because they have lots of choices today, lots of choices. And so, it is commission, but, if you have a solid book and if you have the solid relationships with the clients, it can be, a get
Okay, so
living.
it takes a lot of clients to really build up a decent amount of income every single month then.
It takes a lot of clients. And so there are a lot of agents out there who, there's independent agents, then there's the captive agents like myself. I'm a farmer's insurance agent. And so we really have to work really hard, to build our book. And you have to have a strong team behind you. You can't do it alone, especially because the needs vary from auto, home, umbrella, life, small business, big business. Disability, medical insurance. I don't really dive into the disability or the medical insurance portion of it. I partner with people. So I call my vertical partners, my trusted insurance advisors, who can help me kind of round out these services that we provide to the clients. And I think that for me has proven to be very beneficial for my business because I want to be that one-stop shop. I want my clients to stay with me. And in doing so, the business continues to grow.
So for someone trying to get into the insurance business right now, what's the biggest tip that you can give to them?
I would say one is you gotta have the stomach for it. You have to be able to have somebody tell you no. You're going to hear a lot of no's. You have to figure out what's your niche market. I think if you have a niche market, you will be more successful than trying to be all over the place. So I figured out about 15 years ago that the commercial real estate market was an excellent niche to get into. So I really learned the ins and outs of insurance for homeowners associations, apartment buildings, strip malls, any kind of commercial real estate office buildings. And I became expert at the insurance policy. What was important, what kind of claims are they looking at when they have claims, what setting the expectations, how are they going to get paid? What are they going to get paid for? What is actually covered? What is not covered? So for someone trying to get into insurance, I say it takes a long time. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm in here 30 years later. And of course I want it all to happen now, but I realize that I have to have a plan. I have to have a strategy. And so for someone trying to get into insurance, I would say you have to know why. Why are you doing it? You have to have a passion. And if you don't, I really don't think that you can be very successful.
So in real estate, teams are very popular. So would you recommend someone to join a team?
Actually, I would. A couple weeks ago, I went to a seminar where I learned that they're with the farmer's insurance agent who has what he calls a platform program. He is a well-established agent, been in the business for 34 years, and he brings on people to join his team and gives them an opportunity to participate in an equity program. You're building your business within the business. And
that's interesting.
It's a very interesting concept. And it's a concept actually that intrigues me because the size of my business is pretty substantial. But my team is very, very new to me because, we just got together last year. But in order to keep key employees, in order to keep people interested and intrigued and, having them try to help you build your business, you have to give them something. A paycheck's not enough, commission's not enough. So if you have an opportunity to build your business within a business, I would say that's the way to go. I had a girlfriend recently leave the mortgage industry after 15 years. And,
wow.
Yeah, and decided that she wanted to do insurance. And I said, go for it. She says, well, where do I start? I said, get your license. She says, and then what do I do? I said, talk to a lot of insurance agents, independents, captives, new ones, old ones. Find out what are the challenges. Find out, in the area that you're in, is this a good area? Is it a robust area? Are there lots of agents? What are they offering? What are they not offering? And so I just, would say that if you're going to start in insurance, talk to a lot of people, talk to the successful agents, talk to the agents that are barely making it, find out why, and I really just do believe that when you have a passion for what you're doing, you're going to make it.
Now, is the insurance industry very similar to the real estate industry in that it's oversaturated with agents?
Oversaturated could maybe. I think that one of the biggest challenges that insurance agents have is that we're competing not only with each other, but we're competing with the internet. We're competing with the 1-800 companies. We're competing with the Name Your Price tool. Price is always on the table. Price is king, obviously. But I think that if we can take price off the table and talk about value, I think that you separate yourself from the competition. So is there a lot of competition? There is. But I can tell you that it's a very hard market to get into.
I mean, I can tell you from a consumer point of view, it's way easier to call up someone individually that you know locally as opposed to trying to figure out customer service phone numbers and dealing with the 800 companies.
And I appreciate working with people like you that understand the value of working with a person, of having that relationship, trusting the insurance advisor that we're going to take care of you. A lot of what I hear, even with my current clients, is, we're insured with Geico on the auto because it's cheaper. We're insured with you on the home because, it's better. You can't find anything else. And cheaper is good until you have the accident. And then when you have the accident and you have to call the 1-800 number and you don't have your insurance advisor behind you advocating for you, helping you navigate the process, because it can be quite difficult, especially if you're hit by someone who's uninsured or who doesn't have enough insurance, or it can become quite the process, and we're all busy. And so I always try to voice to my clients that, we're here to help you. We're here to take all that off the table and help you navigate processes.
Well, let's talk about, right before we start recording, we were just briefly talking about full coverage. So let's talk about this, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm fully covered. I've got insurance. So what's your take on that? And are people really fully covered?
So I do often hear, oh, I have full coverage. And really that is a term that shouldn't be used, because I think it should be, I have the right coverage. I have the right coverage for my exposures. I have the right coverage for my situation. Everybody's exposures are different. Yours are different than mine. Mine are different than, my neighbor next door. Even my team, they have different insurable needs. Do you own your home? Do you have, multiple properties? Do you have multiple vehicles? What is your asset exposure? I often hear people say, oh, well, I don't need this coverage because my vehicle is old. And I'm like, well, an old vehicle can cause the same bodily injury that a new vehicle can. So, if you hit a pedestrian, it doesn't matter how old your car is. The fact of the matter is that person's going to sustain severe bodily injury. So full coverage, really, I think people think of it as their vehicle is covered. So it has physical damage coverage, but there's bodily injury coverage, there's medical coverage, there's comprehensive, there's collision, there's car rental reimbursement, there's towing, there's new car replacement. There's so many different coverages out there. So for people to think I have full coverage, I think they say that just because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like I'm okay. But when you have the accident, do you want to know that you're okay? Are you for sure you're okay? Or are you saying, oh my God, I hope I'm okay? And so that's something that I really convey to my clients is, it's my job to take care of you. It's my job to make sure that when you have that accident, you have no doubt in your mind that Jessie took care of you.
And one of the common problems I see also in real estate is people will get insurance and not enough coverage to replace the building in case of a fire. And I've seen some policy plans, and a lot of people make the decision based on what they're going to pay as far as pricing, and then they get coverage of $500,000 for a property that's worth, if you rebuild it, might be $700,000-800,000.
So really, this is where it is the insurance agent's job to run a valuation. Marshall and Swift is a very common tool that's used in the industry, where we can plug in your built square footage, the features of the home, the features of the property, and it will give us a minimum replacement value. Now, that's just the minimum. And most insurance companies will insure for, at least the minimum coverage to meet the requirements of the insurance contract. From that point, it really is determined by the client. Is it really enough? Do I have a custom home? Do I have a custom building? Do I have, ceilings that, aren't easily replaced? Or do I have, doors that aren't easily replaced? Where are the materials coming from?
Usually on a home purchase, the lender's going to catch that. They're going to want to make sure there's enough insurance to replace what they're lending and the actual value of the property. But I think going forward in the future, when values appreciate or when the cost of construction goes up, and then they keep their policy the same coverage.
I think that the recent Tubbs fire really opened everybody's eyes to looking at their insurance policies. And we got a lot of phone calls after that, and people wanting to review their insurance and ask the question, do I have enough insurance? Because there are a lot of different companies out there that provide homeowners insurance, there is a difference in, a farmer's policy versus maybe a Safeco policy versus maybe a Geico policy. The farmer's policy actually has the endorsement that gives you 150% of the replacement value. So if you're insuring your home for $100,000 and you have a total loss, then the policy will pay $150,000 to rebuild. In addition to that, there's little coverages that are in the policy, like building ordinance coverage, to bring your home up to code. That's it could be an additional 50%. So there's 10, 25, 50% options. It really is the insurance agent's job to put together the best coverage that they can provide for their client. Now, the client then has to look at the policy and say, is this the premium that I want to pay? That's when they start knocking down like, well, maybe I don't need building ordinance coverage, or maybe I don't need the extended replacement cost. And it's our job to really emphasize to them, in the worst case scenario, your home burns down to the ground. How long is it going to take to get it rebuilt? Permits take a long time. In the Tubbs fire, because there's so many structures that went down, cost of labor just went up. The foundations were completely gone. So those had to, when we do replacement values, we usually aren't counting on the foundation melting away or, being destroyed. So we really have to sharpen our pencils and use the tools that the industry gives us to make a determination of where we need to start in terms of coverage, and then talking to the client. And I always recommend to my clients when they come in and they ask, do I have enough coverage? I say, well, this is what my tools are telling me we need. We have the extra 50%. They say, oh, but, I have, these features in my home. And I always say, if you have a contractor friend, or you recently did a remodel, or your neighbor did a remodel, why don't you invite the contractor to come over and do a walkthrough with you and say, hey, could you give me your estimate of what it would cost to rebuild per square foot? And then that to me is a better number to use.
Okay. Now, flood insurance. I know flood insurance is a big, big topic here, and there's obviously a lot of problems with flood maps constantly being, if I know someone personally where their property was never within a flood zone, then the flood maps and they've never had a flood, right? And then the maps get redrawn, and now they're at the border, and now they have to have flood insurance, and their lender's requiring flood insurance, and the flood insurance policy that they're being quoted is anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, depending on who they're talking to. And so it's a huge added fee. So what problems are you seeing, or what solutions are you also able to come up with?
Flood insurance typically is a lender-driven coverage. So you don't have everybody who owns a home calling us saying, hey, can I buy flood insurance? The only time people really need to buy flood insurance is when the lender says you're in a special flood zone. We're all in a flood zone. Every property's in a flood zone. Whether or not it's classified as a special flood zone, which then requires you to have flood insurance, is a different story. And floods can happen at any time. Look what happened down in Santa Barbara with the fires. And there was flooding. They weren't in special flood zones. When they had the massive fires and then the massive rains, and you had all this mudsliding, that is flood coverage. If you didn't have a flood policy in place, you don't have coverage under your standard homeowner's policy. There are many carriers out there, so you can always go with the standard flood insurance program through FEMA. But there are other carriers out there who have different options, different solutions. Deductibles, the higher your deductible, the lower the premium. Unfortunately, when you are in that classified special flood zone, you are going to pay up the nose for insurance. That's just a fact. Yeah.
Now, how are prices determined here in the Bay Area compared to outside? I mean, what factors go into pricing?
For auto, for home, for what type of insurance?
Let's focus on home, being that this is Real Realtors.
Okay. So home insurance is dictated by the pricing is dictated by many different things. So year built, square footage, zip code. Right now, we're running into huge problems with high brush area. So my office is located in Orinda, and sadly, I cannot offer farmers homeowners insurance to anybody in Orinda. They're in a high fire zone. So road access, determines the flood, the fire, the fire line. Proximity to brush determines the fire line. So fire line is a huge issue right now. Prior claims, if you've had a prior claim, so you're selling your property, your home, and you've had, you had a water claim. Your new purchaser is going to have a difficult time placing their insurance because insurance companies are saying, we don't want homes that have had water damage, even if the damage has been repaired. So then you have to go to a substandard market or another market that isn't, as competitively priced as State Farm or Farmers. And so it could be sometimes foundation type. If you're on pier and beam, it could be a hard placement. So it depends on the features of the home. Location-wise, in the Bay Area where we're at, tract homes are super easy to place. The homes in the hills can be a little bit difficult. So.
Okay. Now, what are ways a client can reduce their premium on insurance?
Insure under one company, maximize the multi-policy discounts. There are insurance companies out there that offer discounts for what they call the professional market. So we call it the affinity market. So if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're a dentist, if you're a lawyer, if you're a scientist, if you're a teacher, you're entitled to special discounts. I think insuring under one umbrella does a couple things. One is it maximizes the discounts. Two, it allows your insurance advisor to really take care of you, to really see what are we insuring, how much are we insuring for, and so I think that higher deductibles also play into lowering the premium. The higher deductible, the lower the premium, I think that really, in a nutshell, would be what I would recommend to people who are shopping and trying to maximize. I always call it maximizing your insurance dollar. When you're working with one agent, when I work with my clients, I try to shift coverages and see, if I increase your deductible, but I increase your liability, I'm protecting you better. And actually, I'm actually saving you this much money per year. And so I think that for me, that's what I strive to do, is trying to provide my clients the best value. And so maximizing every insurance dollar you spend by keeping it under one company.
So who makes up most of your clients right now?
Most of my clients, so about 60% of my client base are just families, like myself, married with children, own a home, a couple cars. And about 40% of my business are actually commercial real estate investors. I really enjoy working with the commercial real estate investors just because they tend to buy really good properties that have, not only have good value for them, but they're easily insurable. And so I work with everybody. So the client base that I have now really is just your everyday family. Most of my clients are aging out, so they're retired or they're getting ready to retire. So then I have to look at, are we properly protecting your assets? You're older, and now, you're probably prone to more accidents, or you're older and you probably have a lot of equity in your home to protect. So earthquake insurance has become a very big, popular thing amongst my clients, is talking about earthquake, because the more equity you have in your property, the more you stand to lose. And so, yeah.
So you really analyze all your clients, like assets and their current situations. So it's much more than, hey, I own this house and I have this car and I need insurance for it.
Yeah, I definitely take a more analytical approach to my clients because my job, is not to sell insurance. My job is to provide protection and solutions for your exposures. And this goes back to what we were talking about when people are trying, or if you have somebody trying to get into insurance, what are my recommendations? My recommendation is to really care about who you're working with. And, if you make the sale, great, you make the commission, but I want to make the relationship work with my client. I want my client to know that, yes, I am looking at your policies every single year. I call my clients a lot. So, we call at renewal, we call just to thank them for their business. If we have new coverages that come up, we call. So we're constantly, in front of our clients, because I want them to know that, yes, you have a choice to insure somewhere else, but I want you to insure with me because I am going to take care of you.
And do you get involved with the claims too when something happens?
Absolutely. That is, if you think about it, the only reason we buy insurance is is because if we have a claim, if we have an accident, if we have a fire. And so we do have a process in our agency where we follow every claim from start to finish. The minute we are notified that there is a claim, that client gets a phone call. Are you okay? What can we do for you? I was extremely impressed with the way farmers performed at the Tubbs fire. Within 24 hours, they had 3 catastrophic buses on the ground. They were cutting checks. They were putting people in hotels. One of the most phenomenal things that I heard recently is that farmers paid 100% of the personal property limit without an inventory list to all of those families. That is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's amazing. And so, I stand behind my brand. I stand behind my company. And I want my clients to know that, I'm going to help you from start to finish. We want to make sure that they have an excellent claims experience. Otherwise, they have a bad claim, they're going to move their insurance. And that doesn't help me build my business.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned personal property. I do property management, and one of the big things I keep telling tenants all the time is make sure you have renter's insurance. In fact, right now I'm requiring everyone coming in to get renter's insurance. But a lot of the tenants that are given to me, they don't have it, right? The leases might recommend it, but they don't have it. And the problem is the property owner will have building insurance that covers the building itself, but not the personal property of the tenants. So, what's it look like on your end as far as like renter's insurance?
Well, renter's insurance is extremely inexpensive. I mean, you can get a basic policy for about $150 a year. Why somebody wouldn't have it, I don't know. I think that renters kind of don't value, maybe some of them don't value their personal property. Oh, my stuff comes from IKEA, it's easily replaceable. But the renter's insurance policy does more than just protect their personal property. It helps them to move out. If they have a fire in their unit and the building owner reports it to his insurance company, well, his insurance company is going to make him whole. But the renter has to pack up their stuff. They have to move out. Maybe they have to store their stuff. They have to look for another apartment. The policy has additional living expenses, so it helps to reimburse them for all that. It helps to pay for all that. It also comes with personal liability coverage. So if they do something, maybe they destroy the property. Maybe they did something to a neighboring property. The personal property, the personal liability coverage comes into play, and it protects them. So, it's an inexpensive coverage. Most of the times when we do auto insurance, and if the client is a renter, we just kind of package it, bundle it all together because it costs them like maybe $5 a month at that point.
Yeah. And that's the main reason why we are requiring tenants to have renter's insurance is because of the tenant liability. Because, a good example is tenants, over time, or they damage the sewer lateral because of, they're dropping in grease, or I had a case where tenants, their kid was dropping toys through the backflow device, right? So they're damaging the property, and now there's repairs that are needed. That will actually cover those repairs, correct?
So the backup of sewer and drain is covered on the building insurance. The tenant's renter's policy, if the building coverage insurance were to subrogate or go back to the tenant and say, you were negligent, you're at fault for this damage, we're going to come after you, then the renter's policy would pick up the claim. So I think that speaking to that point, though, I don't know if you're aware that there is such a thing as tenant's liability insurance that building owners can buy. And they basically, pass on the expense to the tenant, but it only has the liability coverage component. So there kind of are, solutions and creative strategies to provide the coverage to the building owner, because the building owner has that huge exposure. His tenant leaves, the stove on, and there's a grease fire. Could take down 2, 3, 4 units. And so now you've got 2 or 3 or 4 units that need repair that you're not, collecting rents on. Tenants have to move out. And, I think having insurance just makes the claims process go so much more efficiently, and it's a smoother process. And it's always going to be the person that doesn't have insurance is the one that screams the loudest because they're inconvenienced. And so insurance really can be, it just can help you through the process and make it a little bit easier.
What's the average price for a homeowner or landlord to get tenant liability insurance on their property?
That I don't actually have much experience with because I haven't really had any apartment owners that want to even look into it. I've seen the policy form. I know that it is out there. And I think that what I read was it's an average of like $15 per unit. It could be $20 per unit per year.
I feel like that's a no-brainer for them to get.
It is, but but who knew that it was out there? Right?
True, yeah.
Unless
yeah.
you actually talk about it. So, I mean, I've been in the commercial real estate market for a long time, and we've seen a lot of different things come in. And, insurance companies see that there are exposures out there that, maybe they can develop a policy form to protect that exposure. So, yeah.
Now, the insurance industry is people-based, right? And it's very similar to real estate in many ways. How do you stay in front of your clients? How do you keep reminding them that you're in business, you're their insurance agent? How do you stay in front of them?
So I'm really big right now on social media. So I have, my Facebook page. We have different forms of media that we use to stay in front of the client. We do a lot of mailers to the client. They can be physical mailers, a lot of email to the client. Farmers has a really awesome program. It's called Hearsay. That all I basically do is go in there and I click different commercials that I want to pop up on my client's Facebook page. My husband actually says to me, he says, "You post an awful lot." And I said, "Well, you know what? I have to stay relevant to my clients. I want them to remember who I am. I want them to know I'm here, I'm working, I'm providing services." Maybe they didn't know that we sell boat insurance. Maybe they didn't know that we can provide insurance for food trucks. Maybe they didn't know that we insure apartments, because all they think about is the farmers commercials that they see, right? Professor Burke and their amazing little commercials. But they don't stop to think of the whole platform of insurance solutions that we have for them. We call our clients. We're always trying to get in front of them, always trying to stay in front of them. I have clients, I send them postcards. I send them greeting cards. We send them happy birthday cards. When they have an event, a family-changing event, whether it's, it could be a marriage, it could be a death in the family, we send condolence cards, we send congratulatory cards. We have clients that say, "Oh my gosh, I go to my clients' houses and I meet with them and they're like, I've never had an insurance agent sit in my house." And I say, I'm trying to really differentiate myself from my competition and really make my clients understand that, I'm providing a service to you. I'm not just selling you a policy. And like I said, I don't sell insurance. I provide solutions. And I think that people really appreciate that, the hands-on approach.
Now, do you use a CRM system to keep track of all that?
We do have one. It is a farmers-based system. They call it SIMS. It's a sales management system. But what we do a lot in our office is we pull a lot of reports. We have team meetings. We strategize who we're going to talk to, what we're going to talk to them about. My thing is always thinking about what's in the best interest of the client. So when a client calls and says, I want to pay on my homeowner's policy, my team says, great, we can take your payment, but they're supposed to look at our CRM system and see what insurances do we have with them, what insurances don't we have with them, when was the last time we talked to them, when was the last time that they had a one-on-one with me. And so, trying to, let the client understand that, hey, we want to see you, we want to talk to you. So the CRM system that we have does work for us. It also does a lot of solicitation for people who are not insured with us, and we're trying to earn their business. So they get mailers and they get emails and, plethora of communication from our agency.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, if people want to do business with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Email, Facebook, phone calls. We love to talk to you on the phone. I know a lot of people like to hide behind, emails and text messages and the impersonal information, but they can give my office a call. We are there Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. I have my team there.
And what's your Facebook page?
It's Jessie Banuelos Insurance Agency.
Okay. That way people can go follow you on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on the podcast and lots of good tips on insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on. I've been accused of all you ever talk about is insurance. I'm like, because it's important to me. And I think what's really great is when I do talk about insurance, and when my team talks about insurance to their friends and their family and to whomever, we offer free insurance reviews. So you do not have to be insured with Farmers. You do not have to be insured with my agency. If you are concerned about, I haven't heard from my agent, or I don't even know who my agent is, or I have this insurance policy and I haven't taken a look at it, I just keep paying the bills, I say, bring it in. Let's take a look at what you have, and I'll give you my honest opinion.
I think that's one of the biggest problems. People don't know who their insurance agent is, because insurance agents will write the policy and then just kind of let it go, and there's no follow-up. There's no personal touch.
Exactly. And I think that that's very important. There's no follow-up. So when we do have a new client, we have, a new client packet that goes out to them, welcoming them to our agency. And we set up the reviews. We let people know the expectation is you will hear from us. You will have an appointment with us. We do want to see you. And we have clients that say, I don't have time, or, hey, I'm okay. And I say, well, I hope so. But if you have a claim and we haven't met, I just don't want there to be any gaps in insurance. And usually when you put the onus back on them, like, hey, if there's something happens and we haven't had our annual meeting, they'll usually say, well, can you call me next month, or can you call me during the summer, when things lighten up. So hugely important to review.
Great. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for the invitation. Loved being here.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Thank you to our producer, Sam Lubman. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast. The Mark Guzman podcast experience will be taking a short break, and we will be back in April. In the meantime, you can catch up on our past episodes on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. During the break, we will still have new episodes of Real Realtors every Wednesday. For more information on what I do as a property manager, visit my website at markguzman.com. I really want to thank all of you for listening. It means the world to me, and I hope today's episode provides you value in your day-to-day life. I created this podcast to help showcase the many great people that live in this world and help share some knowledge that I've learned along the way in life. Again, thank you for listening. Check out our sponsors, and I'll catch you on the next episode.